Game loaded.
We are going live with the Lessons Learned podcast. Let us transition to the lovely faces here of our friends, Chapelmont and his entourage, Chihuahua and all. Chad, welcome to the program. I hope you have a good evening. And before starting, we were going to talk about a couple of news and also complaining a little bit about Amazon not being delivering our stuff. But that's neither here nor there when it comes to gaming, unless I actually order a game. I did order another book by way of something that Adam Coble suggested, and I wanted the physical copy, so cross our fingers that it will come in about 2 weeks, apparently, supposedly. But there you have it. So tonight's topic is going to be what makes a good game, a good game, video game story. And well, before we get to that, of course, we're going to do a little bit of news, and there's really 3 pieces of news I want to talk about. Let's start with the creepy, the sexual harassment scandal that is circling Hollywood and media in general. What that is being exposed because it's something that was already there, but now people are talking about it. About damn time, if you ask me. Has reached video games by way of Monsieur David Cage and Quantic Dreams. There has been accusations that Monsieur Cage, 2 sets of accusations. One, that he has created a hostile work environment, and including in that hostile work environment is sexually and racially abusive language. And so he has denied all accusations, and in fact has said over Twitter that he is prepared to sue those people who are making the accusations. But if it does in the United States, he has a very hard bar to make that accusation stick. So we shall see. But it shows that video games are not immune to the vagaries and realities of, reality.
That's unfortunate.
And we'll probably talk about David Cage and his games later on in the program. Another piece of news is that there's a new digital distribution system, another online store for games that is promising that you can buy and sell digitally acquired games. But the difference here is it's something that has been attempted before, but no much success. This time around, most of the money, about 75%, is going to go back to the publishers or developers, depending who puts the game in the store. We talked about DRM before. I don't think. What do you think about that?
So Robot Cash that's the name of the site that's popping up. I think it'd be interesting because it sort of gives consumers the control over their digital goods, which we've talked about, that you almost have no rights to the digital goods that you buy because they can always just decide nope, this thing is no longer available, or we're just going to cut our servers down. What have you. It's the license usage, not like you actually own the game. So this sort of gives consumers control, saying, oh, you know what, I don't want access to this digital good anymore, and I can sell it without having to necessarily sell like my personal account if I wanted to give these digital goods away. But there weren't very many details in the Nose video. Is this like a third-party site that's sort of handling keys, or is this going to be a platform like Steam that's going to be separate that just allows you to do that?
I think it's supposed to be a mix of the two. Now, I have 2 questions. First of all, I mean, you have GOG with free DRM, which means when you get the game, although they do have a client, which is optional, you download the game from them completely. Right?
Yeah.
So that means you own it. You can resell it, that's true. But if GOG crashes tomorrow and you manage to get all your games downloaded, like what happens with Steam or Origin, or things where you sort of download most of the game, but not all of the
Yeah,
game.
you don't install it an installation file that you
Yeah,
can
just
make
use
a duplicate of and keep a backup
yeah,
of.
or share with someone else if you want to. And in the case of Steam, for example, I want Elite Dangerous has me subscribing to another service based by that company, and then I had another game that had to go to another client, which is Uplay. Now I have Uplay in my machine for some reason. So I can see. I think GOG is effective because first of all they deal a lot with older games, but you don't see as many newer games in them because they're DRM free, right? So there's always that thing. It's like, two, of course, popularity. Steam is very popular, and already has competing services from the publishers themselves, Uplay, Origin, and some others. And third, I don't, from the publisher's point of view, because we have DRM and some, it's called digital rights management. I don't see the benefit of willingly participating into this. Like, oh, we get 75% of the sales back. Okay, but you never, how can I say, you get whatever percentage you get from the sale originally of the game anyway. And if you need, and that game will always be tied to you through the service. I mean, you can play offline, perhaps, but you still need a client. So,
and they didn't talk about how their reselling is going to work either. Are they going to? So once I sell my game, say Mass Effect, I for some reason don't want to ever play Mass Effect again. Let's make it Mass Effect 3. Let's say I never want to play Mass Effect 3 again. Here it is. They give me, what was it, 20%? We'll just say they gave me like $3 or $6 for it. So what are they going to do with that like license now? Like how much is it going to sell now? If say it costs $60, how much are they going to sell it now? Turn around and sell it now?
If it maintains the price, because if it drops price, then they're going to recalculate. Well, I'll pay
$20. So I assume the money that I'm gonna get back is 20% of whatever the game is selling for currently, brand new. But what about? And they said that 70% of that money goes to the user. Is that when the game actually gets resold as a used game, and how much are they going to resell it for if it's a used copy, or are they just going to sell it as a brand new copy again?
Well, I think they would have to. Well, one way would have to be that they would regenerate a unique key. So they give you a key, you sell it, they have to invalidate the old key to make sure that you don't make a copy of it, right? And try to rejig it somehow. If you're telling it to a friend of yours buys it, and then you have two keys, and you keep repeating it. And that kind of control is something that they kind of have. I mean, Steam has it, of course, but I don't see a company like I don't know, Capcom being like, oh, you're gonna constantly regenerate keys of the same product. And also you don't get cash. According to the No, you get a cryptocurrency, kind of like a microtransaction in-game currency kind of thing, right? Which only works for them, which is, one hand, is good for security purposes, but it also smacks of tokens, like old-fashioned tokens or currency in a video game, right? It's like, if for some reason the service goes down and I haven't spent all my money,
there's no way you can cash it out.
Right, and if it works on a key basis like Steam, and I don't have the full download anyway, again, I don't get to keep it, right? So there's a lot of questions about this and how to make it work, and I don't think it does. And I think ultimately, also, I think these people, one of the conveniences, although we discussed this, I think, in the last episode, about how it's convenient today but necessarily convenient tomorrow because they can change whatever they want about it, is that you can, I have the game right now, I played it, I erase it, right? Maybe keep the saves on the cloud or whatever, and then a month later, 6 months later, a year later, whatever, I can just download it again and I don't have to worry about having a physical copy that disc does get scratched, or it gets dust, or gets lost, or broken. Missing jewel cases. Unless you have somebody who is dedicated like yourself. And I don't know. I'm not very careful with my media, sadly. I should be, but I'm not. Never happened. Maybe if I do get a serious collector kick, then I will be more careful with it. But if you have the shelf space, fine. But if you don't, that's one of the things about digital. You don't have physical goods, so you can unload and reload. It's like, oh, they have a new expansion. Okay, I'm gonna download it again for the new expansion. That sort of thing. Once you sell the key, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I suppose you can always get a new copy, but then you have to shell it, whatever. Say if it costs you $60 and you got $20, then you have to take those $20 to buy the same copy again for $20 or $10 only on their store, right? It's, I don't know. It's
and that's not even getting into possibly buying stolen keys and whatnot from other reseller sites that we've heard of before.
Yeah. And so there's that, and there's a bunch of questions about it. And I mean, I think the biggest hurdle is that there's another thing actually as well is we talked also about engagement. Now the current business model in AAA games is for people to keep their games, right? Because the longer you play the game, the more likely you're gonna buy expansions and DLC and microtransactions, right? So why would any company, especially those like EA and say Ubisoft, who want to create their own rival clients and stores, want people to sell their copies?
Yeah, they wouldn't, especially if they're the only way you can get a PC version of their games.
Yeah, and I mean, it reminds me of the old, and one of the things I said to no, and they keep repeating this, and I have to say it's a ridiculous point. The idea that you're entitled to the profits of a third-party sale. Unless that's in the contract already, you are not entitled to it. That's part of the rights of ownership, right? I own this thing, I can sell it, right? I mean, there's always restrictions to your rights, but the only thing I can do is sell it wholesale, right? And I get the money. I don't have to consult. If I sell something, I bought something from Chapelmon, from New Chapelmon, and then I sell it to a third party, you can't tell them like, oh, where's my money? It's like, yeah, I paid you money when I bought it from you. That's your money. You got your money, right? Unless I owe you money, there's no. So this idea of then giving them a percentage, I guess it's a percentage in order to encourage companies to buy into the service, right?
Yeah.
Unless they're just key resellers. But then and again, in order to resell, well, if they're key resellers, then it just, I mean, that service already exists. So, I mean, and the key resellers, once you install the game, once you use the key, it's invalid, right?
Yeah.
So you don't, it's not actual games. I mean, I don't see big companies like EA or others going like, oh yeah, we're gonna, this game that we expect you to play for hundreds of hours and maybe thousands of hours of multiplayer and buy skins and stuff like that constantly, and we're planning to have a game that's going to last 10 years like Destiny supposedly was supposed to last or whatever. No, we're not going to do that. Why would we do that, right? It doesn't make any sense. In fact, more and more games are demanding connections. Like I'm playing Fallout 4 and I bought it. It was on sale, had all the DLC, but in order for you to even check the mods, you have to subscribe to their service. So if you don't want any mods, you want to play the vanilla game, that's fine. But the moment, even if they're mods, these are mods that you get from say Nexus Mod somewhere else, you still have to validate them through their service. And the moment you click on that mod button, it's like, oh yeah, we got to log in, right? So it's like, I'm already logged in usually because I'm playing on Steam anyway, so. I don't know all the places I'm logged into and have accounts and the like. One of these days I'm probably gonna. There's probably somebody has a piece of software. It's probably called like NetCleaner or something, and you just go to every site that you can possibly be subscribed and just clean up your digital footprint if you want to. So there's that. Uh, they're out to play. Um, so that's very weird. Um,
We'll see how it goes.
Talking of things that are weird but are strangely physical, we have and probably somebody will eventually correct me in this spelling or pronunciation. The announcement today of the Nintendo Labo or Labo. I will not dare to say it quite labia, but that's a different story. That's one for you, YouTube. And it's essentially a do-it-yourself cardboard kit, this as far as I saw, designed to allow for different control measures, control schemes for the Nintendo Switch. This showed something like a light gun, and they showed like a like like a backpack and you know, so like a plain
A
laser tag,
house, a
a
piano.
house, yeah, piano, stuff like that. It's intriguing. Hi, whiskey, my lullaby. How you doing? It's you. What's going on? You can promise with the audio. He's asking for help, but I don't really know what's going on. Probably it's interesting. We'll keep an eye on him. Sorry about that. If it's any problems with your side, if the audio is going down, then yeah, we'll check it out. Anywho, we have Whiskey My Lullaby on chat. Welcome. One of the things we were talking about, not with me. Okay. Oh well. Good to know. Got scared me a little bit there. One of the things that we were talking about, of course, is the Nintendo Labo, and it's strange. I mean, we didn't see a lot of it. We do know that for the Wii, especially, this kind of reminds me of the Wii when it came out, where they took the nunchucks, everybody called them, and basically would have different, other plastic pieces, so you can put it on a light gun, kind of like bazooka thing they had, and this and that. But now it's cardboard, which you assemble yourself. And I think you said something, in the chat that we had before the program about, being biodegradable, for example, which is a good thing. Also pretty cheap as well.
Yeah. You don't have to just, if you ever gone thrift shopping, you run into a lot of old gaming peripherals, a lot of DDR pads, a lot of musical instrument controllers. They just clutter up everything. And of course, once they fall out of popularity, everyone wants to get rid of them.
And they can be very expensive. I mean,
yeah,
garage, what's it, Rock Band and Guitar Hero stuff cost like 3 or 4 times the actual cost of the game. It was like, it was $60, and something cost like $400 or $500 for the entire set. And then a lot of people, I mean, I think especially a Rock Band stuff, it became the Casio keyboard of the early and mid 2000s, right? The stuff that everybody had, played it a couple of times, and then it was like, we're done. People got tired of it. That's it. It goes in the corner, in the garage or the basement or whatever. Nobody uses it anymore. So this seems to be interesting. I suppose it's because it is cardboard, right? It's not a huge investment on anybody's time or effort, right?
Well, it's going to depend on how much they're going to sell the kits by themselves without the software, because it looks like there's going to be there's 2 separate kits, and there's 2 separate softwares for each kit.
Yeah. But still, I mean, yeah, it's gonna probably be expensive for people to buy. I think something like $40. I heard some prices around $40, and it's multiple stacks, right? So it's not just the one cardboard piece and that's it. You get, you can build different things, right? And the idea is very much like the Wii and the Wii U and all these, peripherals that consoles have been playing for decades, since back in the day of the original Magnavox. For video game companies to be able to produce different games like fishing games and stuff like that, and have a peripheral that better fits what they do. Although in recent years, because of gamepads, the flexibility of the gamepad has allowed for a lot of more gameplay options that really kind of do away with many of these peripherals. Like I've been playing a little bit of Elite Dangerous, and I used my joystick, but I realized that joystick really was a very cheap joystick that I bought. It looks very impressive, has a lot of buttons and stuff, but really it doesn't play like all just flight sticks and joysticks that I used to have back in the day, because it's in very niche markets. And if you really want to get something that's good, you have to get like a Thrustmaster or something like that, which costs about over $100 or more, right? And it has, sometimes they have separate throttles and pedals and whatnot. In fact, there's just one time when you have a pedal, right? And they'll make it for flight games and stuff like that. But they're very expensive, right? Or get a wheel or something like that. And more likely than not, if the keyboard and mouse doesn't do it, I just grab my gamepad and that's it, right? And light guns were popular, but
there's a lot of like the Wii U had or actually just the regular Wii had a bunch of peripherals for their controllers.
Mm-hmm. And so there's that. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, people talked about the Switch is like, oh, we don't know how is this going to happen. And I think also making it cardboard, it's designed to be. Remember, the Switch is designed to be portable, which means maybe part of this is just creating a box where you can put a lot of it is just putting your Switch in it. So you can put the Switch in, carry the box, right? Open the box, get the stuff, play it, and put it back in the box.
Yeah, or at worst, maybe just have to fold up the cardboard and just stick it in the backpack.
Yeah, which probably would people. I mean, that's one of the things. Has anybody built a dedicated backpack for the Switch?
I'm sure it's out there, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean or a fanny pack, or in fact, I think the Switch would be perfect for the return of the fanny pack.
I think I still have one of those somewhere in my closet.
I had one when I was a kid. It was something, let's say. So there's that piece of news, and I think there was something. Oh yes, although we are here on Twitch, I do want to talk about a little bit about the latest chapter in the YouTube apocalypse. Sadly, I got the email this morning, and I'm probably, if I put it on YouTube, that probably goes against their agreement there. But I'm gonna say it anyway because they did it. Everybody knows it. I'm not gonna hide it. I got an email this morning saying that essentially all small channels under, I think, 1,000 subscribers and at least one video with 4,000. I don't know if it's collectively 4,000 views or one video has 4,000 views at least. Are going to basically be discontinued, and they're not going to be completely shut down. What's going to happen is that they're going to get demonetized. You will no longer have the ability to try to monetize your channel. Now, mind you, confession time. My channel never made any money, right? I mean, it would have been nice to have the money, right? If for nothing else, have just enough of an income to just sort of, I put money and time into this, I'm getting some money back, right?
Yeah.
But not, I mean, I personally never expected YouTube Gold, right? Those days are long gone. When I got into it, those days were over. But there's a couple of things. First of all, controversial YouTubers who film dead bodies in Japanese forest are being asked to stay in the platform. Of course, they have millions of subscribers. It also discourages people in essence. Like, here's a clear signal that YouTube, Google by way of YouTube, saying, well, we don't want you here anymore, right? It doesn't do anything to actually address any of the problems that YouTube have, at least from the side of the content creators, right? Instead of giving us more tools, now they're going to give us less tools. Although they do encourage you to stay in what they call the Academy, the YouTube Academy, which is a series of training videos, basically, by more popular YouTubers, telling you how to grow your channel, right?
Yeah.
But then everybody does that anyway, so I mean, I guess I could make the 101 ways HJWs have ruined video games, or the feministists are changing our way of life or something. I'm gonna probably get, I don't know, easily 1,000, 2,000 views in a video, but that's not me. That's not what I do. And of course, there was Hurricane Maria, which meant I wasn't online for a while. And this also comes at a time where Twitch is actually making it clearer and, what could argue, easier to track your path to becoming someone who gets a partner, right? They have an affiliate program, so okay, you did these achievements, etc. It's not guarantee success, but they're making it very clear. Here, YouTube is known for being very obscure for some reason, and even more obscure. It's like why they made this decision. Well, we made a decision to improve the channel, blah blah blah. But really, it's like they're cleaning the smaller channels, right? Maybe they're hoping people will just drop the platform altogether, which is weird.
Maybe
because of the sheer amount of, one of the things about YouTube is the sheer amount of content, right? That people can find all these videos depending on the size. Also, what tends to happen, I think people don't understand, is that usually individual videos can be can explode, but that doesn't necessarily translate into the channel becoming very popular.
Exactly. So that sometimes you just need to hit that lucky break. You get someone who likes your stuff and does stuff that's similar to yours, give you a shout out, and all their viewers suddenly they shine a light towards you, and more people become aware of you. They subscribe, which kind of helps you out a little more, because as more people watch your channels or watch your videos, the YouTube algorithm kind of bumps up your videos as to listed as recommendations.
And on and on. The more you have,
and on.
Yeah, it sort of feeds on itself. It's supposed to be a snowball effect. But actually, I think what this encourages is more. Let me be honest. It just encourages more trash.
It does,
because it's all about getting that shock effect that the people who already have established channels, right? They're gonna keep doing what they're doing, and the people who want to break into YouTube, right, get the YouTube money, they're gonna make the kind of videos they think will be sensationalist, will grab attention. They're gonna copy other people, and it's gonna be kind of like television, where everybody's sort of doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching Critical Role, and now there's a gazillion D&D or role-playing channels. I am subscribed to about half of them, a couple of them, but 5 or 6. But clearly, that's not a path for success for me, because if I were to start gaming and there's no guarantee that people are like, oh, you guys are great, after they watch Critical Role and they watch Misclicks and they watch someone else, right? So what would I do, right? Just, I'm a big channel now. Woo, that doesn't work. I mean, it encourages actually mediocrity. Also, that means that, ironically, in order to make money, you have to even invest more money on mics, on computers, on software, on production values,
or going out to cons and going out to events and trying to get your name out there in the hopes that people would subscribe to you. I see some people I follow. Oh, hey, I'm going to be at this con, and then I'm going to be at that con. Come.
I was tempted to do that here in Puerto Rico. There was going to be a Comic-Con Ponce, which was going to be in October. The weather decided that that was not going to happen, so I was basically going to be around with my my cell phone, going like, hey, I'm here, or whatever, grab a camera or whatever, buy one, which, I mean, if people have more money making eventually more trash, I think that's going to be it, right? And more politically incendiary stuff, and we might be reaching peak YouTube. That's probably, I'm not saying that YouTube is going to die anytime soon. Not. Video services are too popular, right? But this is one of the things that when people look back, go like, yep, that's a sign that YouTube had reached its peak, right? It's only after the fact that people are like, okay, so I'm not going to predict the future, but if anything happens on YouTube, then I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, this happened and this happened and that happened. And so, and it also, I mean, I think personally it feels like I'm getting kicked out of my own house. I'm not getting evicted. It's like, well, you can stay on the couch if you want, but really, we just don't want you here. So,
Yeah. Well, I think the best thing we can do is just keep doing what we're doing.
yeah, do
So
whatever we
make our
want, and
presence known.
yeah, I think probably my YouTube is gonna be posting videos, thoughts from Switch, and making the occasional video that of stuff that I really care about and want to discuss, and that's gonna be it. That was my channel anyway, so I'm gonna keep doing that basically, and more AMVs and more everything that I love, without worrying about monetization. Probably, and I think they're gonna have this in which they're gonna keep track of you anyway. And if you do hit some magical numbers, whatever those numbers are, they're like, "Oh, by the way, you like to join monetization? Yeah, okay, okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. Okay, thank you very much." But then you have to sustain the numbers, and it's gonna be complicated. So we did a lot of the news, about half an hour's worth. Now we're gonna talk about our main topic, and I said we were gonna mention David Monsieur Cage again because we're going to talk about one question, which means we're going to talk about a lot of questions. And that is, what makes for a good video game story? Exactly. Warning, and this is one of the reasons why Mr. Chapelman's here, which is he's probably going to come at this from a different perspective that I am going to come at it, which is great. Because I don't want to speak for you, but I'm going to hazard to guess that you are very much a story first kind of person.
Yeah.
And I am a mechanics first kind of person. So since we're going to talk story, I'm going to leave it to Monsieur Chapelmont to describe what he likes or would like to see a good story in video games. So let's have at it.
So what I'd like in video game stories are exciting tales. They don't have to be necessarily take place in extraordinary situations. They can be ordinary settings, but the story has to get my attention and invest me into it. And the thing that usually the main element tends to be the characters. So I think I enjoy a lot of character driven stories, people making decisions, seeing characters like everyday lives, actions, their inner thoughts, just what makes people tick, and what do they do when they're thrusted into these situations. Why do they have to make it? Why do they make the choices they make? And how do they cope with the situations they're being thrust upon? Now, I can see where you're coming at with like the mechanics part, because yeah, a lot of times it seems like the story starts to kind of conflict with the mechanics, and either developers start to kind of have to try to work in game mechanics to try to keep the stories a little more video gamey, for a lack of a better term. And then sometimes it just seems like sometimes the negative impact on the story too is it kills the pacing of a story, or it just seems like why is this happening? Oh, it's because we need to kind of put in the video game mechanics in there. Mm-hmm. But once you kind of, if you were to say cut that, oh, if this situation never happened, the story still stays intact, so it's completely unnecessary.
Well, again, I'm a mechanics kind of first kind of person. What I'm looking for, I'm also very much of a structuralist. Somebody who thinks about structure and how things are put together, and I'm very much a wonk when it comes to this. Also comes from being a writer. I want three things when it comes to story. I want a story that serves as sort of scaffolding or framework for the action, right? I mean, you can have a dozen games in which I'm a space marine and I shoot aliens in the face. I can have 24 stories about creating empires in strategy games. Another 100 games about playing, a sport, a real life sport or an imaginary sport. Others about, I don't know, construction things or destructing things like cities and valleys and sandboxing and whatnot, right? That's the genre. That's the mechanics. It could be puzzles. It could be exploration. It could be whatever mechanics the particular genre game has. What I really want from the story is to answer some good questions such as, who am I in the game? What am I doing? How am I doing things, right? Because one of the things is, I also emulate older games, and I've been playing like Pitfall and Pac-Man, and those games didn't really have a lot of story. Mind you, by today, standards, they're not great games. They're the granddaddy of them. It's very simplistic games, like, eating dots and dodging ghosts, but they were games, right? So there were a lot of games, not all of them. You had your MUDs, and you had your graphic adventures when they came out. Before that, your text adventures. So certainly, some of them were very heavily based on narrative. But the bulk of video games, which I grew up with, were just, give me a joystick, give me a keyboard, whatever, and just start playing, right? It's the mechanics.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, you started adding the story around it. And so a good scaffolding, a good framework. Like, why am I doing this? Who am I? Who are the characters? Who are the enemies? And who are my friends, right? And you give me a good sense of logic and reason for what's going on and what I'm doing here, then that's usually what I see, that most of the time the story and the gameplay flow together. Because the story says, okay, yes, you're doing what every other game has asked you to do before, but here's some very interesting things that separate this particular, you're flying this jet through the sky and putting missiles or something, or flying in a commercial aircraft from point A to point B, if that's what's required for the game, right? Different from the other game that just does the same thing, right? It's like, if it's the difference between you're going to save the Earth from the evil empire versus, no, this complex political situation, and yeah, your friends are, some of them are for the war and some are against. It gives context to what I'm doing, and if it's good content and context, then more the merrier. The second part is, and I think this sort of fits in what you talk about characters and being, buying into the game, is give me a story that encouraged me to keep playing. Right? It's like, I want to go over there because there's a very interesting character I want to talk to, and I do want to see the cutscene where they talk and cry and laugh and whatever, get the joke. There's this one cool piece of lore, right? I don't know. I'm in a post-apocalyptic, building, Beaumont building or a cave or something, and I open a book or a computer and it goes like, this is what happened here moments before they died or something. Like, wow, that's an interesting little tidbit, right? Or it could be more complex. It could be the entire plot, right? So I really want to rescue my father or my sibling or save the galaxy. It gives me a reason to care and encourage me to do the kind of things that the game already is asking me to do. Again, it's sort of story as sort of support, right? It encouraged me to go like, oh yeah, I like these characters, and there's some memorable moments. It's not simply, again, shooting someone in the face or building something, whatever. There's something to it. You get some meat to it. But barring those things, one of the things I don't, and you talked about this a little bit, is those stories that I can engage with them on my own pace. Because again, you're playing the game and you ask me, hey, this is a very important thing you want to do. Like, I'm playing Fallout 4. Oh, you're going to rescue your child. Like, well, let's go rescue my child. Well, you got to do this, and then you can go and do other side quests over there. It's like, but your mechanics are all about building settlements and doing side quests and exploration. But you're telling me your story is, hey, the end of the world is coming or whatever. You got to do that now, right? It's like, how about you create a story in which you encourage me to go there, but if not, I can engage with your story on my own terms, right? Because one of the things I really hate, and I said this before, is when the game drags you by the lapels. I was playing Doom, the 2016 Doom. I streamed it on the channel. There were two things I did not like about the game. The times when the game says, oh no, we have a story to tell you, sit your ass down, you gotta see the cutscene, right? And the platforming. One was mechanical, the other one was narrative. Because even the game almost goes out of its way to go like, yeah, story, fuck it, just you're here to shoot demons in the face with a shotgun or whatever, right? Doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody's gonna like that, but it works for that game, right? where you compare, say, Doom 3, which was supposed to be very atmospheric and dark and stuff, and there was tons of story, but it felt very limiting. It felt that it didn't follow the sort of high octane, gameplay of the
adrenaline rush
past
that the game's
supposed to have attached to Doom, right? And it was like, okay, this is fine for this, but again, there's certain thing that happens like, oh, I knew that was going to happen, and you were there, you were there from your home, of course, when I was playing the Mass Effect 3 on Sunday, original Mass Effect, and we talked about a situation where you confront the villain, Saren, and there's an obligatory shooting sequence where you just have to sort of shoot at the guy. It's like, I'm shooting him, but you don't defeat him because you're not supposed to defeat him.
Yeah, you can bring down his health all the way down, and as soon as that, he just gets off his little space Segway and then just grabs you by the neck and holds you there. Like, oh, you didn't just kick my ass. I'm fine.
Yeah. And this is a thing I've been thinking about, and probably will make a video of it. I always have ideas for new videos. It's the problem in video games with the narrative imperative. And that is, the simple question, narrative imperative is what makes for a good story, right? We like to think in movies and in television and now in video games that if we have a good story, right? If we do the kinds of things that a good story demands, then we're going to have a good game by definition. But if you look, for example, we talked about this, the ending of Fallout 3, even the ending of Mass Effect 3, that scene with, Saren. Sometimes you inject gameplay because you want to remind the player that they're playing a game so they don't get bored listening to people talking. Or sometimes you make decisions and like they make perfect sense. Like, oh, the hero is going to sacrifice themselves, sacrifice others, or be betrayed or whatever. Makes for good story, but doesn't necessarily make for the game. Particularly when it sort of goes against the grain of what you've done.
Yeah.
Right? In Fallout 3, you could be a complete bastard. It's like self-sacrifice. Oh, I got people I can do that, right? Or you have companions that are immune to radiation. You have to go... Spoilers for the ending of Fallout 3. You have to go into an irradiated chamber and press some buttons, and that's the end of it, right? I have a ghoul that, has a follower immune to radiation. Yep. I have a super mutant immune to radiation. I have a loyal dog that, I don't know, is smart enough to press the buttons if I want to. I have a girl that she has a superpower armor, can probably resist radiation. Or I simply don't want to shut down this thing because I'm a complete bastard. Like, oh, I don't care about this. My dad is dead.
Yeah, I don't want to give purified water to the West.
I don't want to take care of it. I don't want to. I'm not a savior or anything. I'm just a guy trying to survive out here. I don't care, and just walk away, right? But that makes for a good story. The hero sacrifices in the end, and it closes the loop with the father and what they were telling in the beginning, etc. But from the point of view of gameplay, of what you can or should be able to do, it's not there. I'll give you another example, not to pick on always on Bethesda and BioWare, Ubisoft and Far Cry. All the big, playing Far Cry 3, all the big boss fights are QTs. Very cinematic. But I got a shotgun. I have assault rifles. I can kill anything, attack helicopters, tanks, whatever shows up with all these weapons. But this guy, I gotta go and fight with an ancient knife because it's cool, right? And it's like,
yeah, they're sacrificing style and cinematics for gameplay, and it probably doesn't have a point to it in the story. Oh, I have to sacrifice. Nothing can kill this guy because he's got some magic amulet, and the only thing that can kill him is the sword. Or I can't put the sword on a crossbow or something.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes sense, if you know it from the beginning, and it's like, oh, I'm going to quest for the sword so I can kill the guy. But I get there, and it's like, oh, this guy, the guy's invincible, so you got to get this ancient knife and press the buttons at the right time that kind of simulate gameplay, but not really. There's one part where, and again, spoilers for the end of Far Cry 3. Spoilers? Okay, spoilers. You've been warned. You are forced to sit down at a poker game, which you were going to quote unquote infiltrate. But the bad guy knows who you are, so they know. And the first thing they do is, and this is cinematic, it's a cutscene. They take one of your fingers and they cut one of your fingers. The moment that happens, the QTE sequence starts. You fight him, knife fight, right? You beat him, right? Pressing the right buttons. No real skill whatsoever, because the game doesn't really have melee, close quarter combat mechanics. Just ask that. You wake up from that fugue state, minus a finger, blood. Everybody around you is dead somehow, right? You get up. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm back into gameplay. You get up and you go out the window. Of course, the thing is that you didn't kill everyone else in the compound. The dozens of heavily armed mercenaries are still out there, and there's a good chance that you can rush out and just get shot to pieces by 2 or 3 guys, 4 little bullets, and you're like, I'm dead, right? It's Grand Theft Auto, almost all of them, but the biggest offender was San Andreas. It's also KOTOR, especially KOTOR 2. One of the reasons why people, KOTOR is such a great story. It's like, not really. What I call the prisoner spot dilemma. It's like, oh yeah, we need you to be in that place over there. Okay, cool. If you were to build a story that encouraged me to go there, I would go there on my own time. But no, we're going to take you prisoner, or we're going to pump you full of drugs, or we're going to shoot you down or something, so that you have to be there, so you have to see the cutscene. So that there's a part in Far Cry 3 where you are in one cutscene, you escape, you sneak around in a very small map, even though it's an open world game, but in certain areas they would limit the maps. So they would limit the map, so if you got out of that, you would fail, because you have to get into a helicopter, even though what you should do is just escape, which makes the most sense, because again, the story demands it, the narrative imperative. You get on the helicopter, spoilers again, you get shot down, so you become a prisoner again of the guy that took you prisoner in the first place and try to kill you like moments ago. And by the way, you can fail because of the waste of the map. If you don't, very careful, you can get, fail very easily, because you have to get close enough to the helicopter not to get spotted, so the helicopter doesn't fly off. You get shot again, but of course that's not the end of the game. It turns out that you survive, so that you get out and keep playing the game, right? And it's like, could you just have me escape the first time around? I mean, if you wanted to set up the whole escape from the scenario, that would have been cool. But because you thought it would be cool for this other thing to happen, then you put me in a situation where, again, it's sometimes you should have gameplay elements when they should be there. Like, hey, I have a rifle, whatever. I don't know, you want to save people, I can make a ladder and climb, or something. Whatever the mechanics. It doesn't have to be combat necessarily. I don't want people think there's also everything is all about shooting stuff in the face or otherwise. But sometimes it's let me play, right? Doesn't necessarily make for a good a game. And also, I know that you play a lot of graphic novels and puzzle games, that sort of thing, which are very heavily in the story. Correct me if I'm wrong, but compared to other games, one of the signature of those games, and I know I'm one of those people, I'm one of those jerks that goes like, games. Yes, I am that kind of guy. Go ahead. You can slag me for that. That's fine.
No, it's
fine. And they don't really have a lot of mechanics, do they?
No, it's mostly just like choose your own text dialogue. But even then, one of the games that I've been playing, sometimes out of the random blue, will have a well, it's weird because this is like a PC game, but there's a port for it for mobile on the phone, and it'll prompt me like, oh, press W to do this thing. Like, oh, gotta be fast. All of a sudden, without like being prompted, it's like, oh, okay, now we're doing this. You got to play tennis. Got to hit that ball just perfect to win. I mean, and you can fail it, and it kind of changes the dialogue slightly at the end. Like, oh, you didn't do all that great.
Mm-hmm.
And might change like whoever you're trying to romance is like vision or their opinion of you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, that's just there because it's got to be gamey, I guess.
Yeah.
On the screen, I just have to kind of push the prompt there really fast. that tells me, "Yep, press W." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll just tap the screen, I guess." But then, so it's mostly just dialogue and a lot of other games. Like I've been playing Life is Strange. It tends to be inventory. Oh, go find the thingy and then stick it into doohickey to progress to the next dialogue segments because we got to have it a game, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, it feels to me like, yeah, you have those minimal gameplay elements, so you can say it's a game, but you don't have more of complex game elements, which would be anything, right? Like a driving sequence, like a driving mechanics, stuff like that. Because if you give the player an option to do that, they might just like, oh, just gonna hang around the car for a while, right? Or
Yeah.
something, right? It destroys the pace of the game, of the narrative. So again, you go back to the narrative imperative of what makes for a good story. And it should be at a given pace, and things should happen in a certain way. And if you give more control to the players, the player goes like, well, I could do that, or I could not do that, right? I could choose not to, right? The players have agency. The more agency you give them, the more likely, the more you're running the risk that they're not going to do the thing that you are asking them to do. Ergo,
Yeah.
the story kind of gets slowed down or jumbled, or they make a mistake and they don't find the right thing, and it's like, that happens.
Yeah, or when a game says that, oh, your character totally has agency, but then it tells you, it punishes you for using that agency, or it says that you use your agency in some way, but you totally didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another spoiler for the first Life is Strange game. At the very end, towards the end, the main character Max is talking to either a hallucination or a time duplicate of her that's chastising her for using her time traveling abilities to make people's lives better by saying that, oh, you got these time powers and you started using them just to get people to like you more by either just helping them or just talking to them, messing up your dialogue, then rewinding time and then using what you learned before to kind of manipulate them into getting the information you wanted. Like, oh, hey, you do care about me because you know X and Y and Z about me. But you can totally not do that throughout the game. You could just limit using your powers to just whenever the game makes you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, you don't have to talk to anyone. You can talk to everybody and then just get them not to like you and never manipulate them anyway. But the game will still treat you at the end like that. It doesn't bring up like, oh, you didn't do that. You didn't manipulate people. But then so that kind of conflicts with like, oh, the lesson is don't use time powers to manipulate people to like you. It's like, but I didn't. I was trying to be a total D-bag.
Because you have to have, again, it makes for a cool story that you have this sort of
tries to make a
confrontation,
narrative.
with you, and oh wow,
there's no dialogue options. Like, no, I didn't. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's trying to railroad you on the set path that the writers are making you, even though they give you some agency.
Almost as if you got in the way by doing the thing that they really wanted you to do.
Yeah, and that towards the end, that part is the only time that comes up. Like, oh, you've been manipulating people to get them to like you, like, but like it's never brought up before. Like, it was never brought up before in her inner monologues, and it's at the end of the game, so it doesn't really have much time to wrap that up either.
Mm-hmm. But there is an exception to that one that is one of your favorites, and that's Undertale.
Yep.
But Undertale tends to basically mechanize.
Yeah, it structures itself around that completely, and builds its story on that. That's the entire mechanic of the game, and I would assume that'd be way too intricate to do with every single game that gives you an option.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I think it's, again, ironically, people praise Undertale for their story, but really, it's the mechanics that are driving things. Yeah, that's also what I like about games. I mean, one reason why I play hundreds of hours of Skyrim, and I mean, I'll play more narrative-driven games like Mass Effect, of course. Uh, but it's like, yes, I often make the same decisions, but I know that if I want to go to off the beaten path and there's a cave or something, I can go and explore that, right? I don't have to follow the path, right? And some people have criticized Bethesda for making weak stories. But I think that again, they're more accustomed to the sort of narratives you find in movies and television, and so and books. And it's like, well, you have to have the same thing, except that
Yeah.
video games are a bit different, and that means that you know, again, the more people want choices, right? But then they also want the structure.
Yeah. So that's a hard balance to strike because either a story is very involved, but it has to limit you on choices, so it kind of railroads you, or it's too linear.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a supposedly a toxic work I don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're offered choices, but then the story gets either varied, and then it just kind of it'll do one or two things. It'll have too many variables and that it can't live up to, because then it has to create a bunch of alternate endings and whatnot. And either they do that and none of the endings are all that satisfying, or it just kind of takes all the possible branches and then just kind of limits them into one, as we sort of saw in Mass Effect.
Well,
3.
talking about that structure, there's also a point of fact when managing of the player expectations. I was talking to one of the designers. I mentioned this before about designers of the Shadowrun games, Harebrained Studios. I forgot the name of the person. I apologize. And yes, you can find that interview on my YouTube channel. And we talked about the sort of diamond shape of the quest in the game, right? You start at the very beginning with very simple, straightforward introduction to the game. Then you get to the hub, where you have all the quests that you can do, different quests. And then finally, when you do all that, or most of it, then you go to the finale, right? There's a point where people say, okay, this is the conclusion to all that I've done, or you asked me to do. And I think one of the problems, especially with story-driven endings, or about Mass Effect, is that it doesn't, again, it feels like what the writers thought was the right ending doesn't match what you were asked to do, or you wanted to do, or did during the game, right? Not only because you have a lot of choices necessarily, but just simply because the things you did and how you did them don't add up to the ending that you get, right? I mean, you can have unintended consequences. That makes for a nice twist, right? That's one thing. If you properly foreshadow it. And in fact, one of the cool things about the second Shadowrun game is that all the things that you thought were happening were not happening. You get a choice. It's like, well, do you want to continue doing what you were doing or not? And it makes you think, like, go back and all the information that you got. And it's like, maybe I was operating under
false pretenses,
right? And either choice, it has good consequences and bad consequences, but it kind of makes sense. It's a binary choice, but it kind of makes sense, right? Because the designers were able to manage the expectations very well, right, up to that point. Like, yeah, there's always things that are hidden, and there's politics involved, and not everything that you knew is the truth. That's also the part of the environment of playing a Shadowrun game, which is a cyberpunk, and there's always controversies and conspiracies, and not everything's what it appears to be. So that's part of the genre, right? That's part of the milieu. So getting to that ending, that bottom of the diamond, as I like to call it, has to be not merely based on what you do, but it has to sort of, come together, right? You have to try to minimize that ludonarrative dissonance. And in the case of Mass Effect, it's like, oh, this would be the cool ending for us because we're writing it in spite of what the game itself asked them to do. Like, it's almost at times like, and also went into Dragon Age 2, for example, a lot, that what you do feels like busy work.
Yeah.
It's a thing that you do to get to the next cutscene, right? And it's like, well, if you just want the cutscenes, then and then some games even have
Or
that, like story modes,
or
like they
like
just
or just experience grind, gold grinds. It's actually that game has a literal gold grind mechanic at the
Mhm.
in the first chapter.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, this is what you want me to do, and I did it, and and then the end is like, well, it didn't matter. It's like, well, why did I play 15, 20 hours of this game? It doesn't matter.
Play Dragon, find out in Dragon Age 3.
Yeah, an Inquisition. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. It might be make for a cool story again, but necessarily make for a good story in a video game. Another game I also criticize, people love KOTOR 2. Well, the problem I have with that game is what some people actually adore about the game is that the main character is not the player character. Like, it's someone else's story. You just sort of pushing it along, right? In a novel, reading that on a movie or an animated series, whatever, when you see it from, or playing the game from the point of view of the character that I'm talking about, that would have been awesome. But instead, you have someone else that even Chris Avalon went like, oh, they're not as great as these other people. He's just like, yeah, he's a player character, whatever. Like, that's awesome, So I played a game in which I was just feeling like going through the motions compared to KOTOR, which, yes, the story is simplistic and it's very much, light versus darkness. It has a plot twist, which is okay, I suppose. It's very much, basically New Hope, with a lot of New Hope into it. But it makes you feel like what you're doing matters, and that you are the reason why you're the player character. Again, who are you? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Right? It matters. When you discover, and spoilers for KOTOR, original KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, that you're Revan. You were Revan all along, right? And you can say, oh, well, screw the council. You manipulated me. I'm going to be a Sith. I want to screw you over. Or say, no, I've seen the error of my ways, seeing what happens when I was Revan and the mistakes I made. I want to rectify them, right? It's I could say that it's a bit rushed, and it should have been paced out even better, but it's there, right? So as a video game, at least for me, as a story for a video game, it works better than what follows in the second.
Yeah. So I think to answer the question about what makes a good video game story is, I think it has to be simplistic, but not necessarily derivative in a way, because I guess that's getting into whether a video game story is good or not. But like, what's a good story that would fit with a video game? It has to be simplistic. It has to give context to the gameplay. Usually a pretty good if it can set up the world, the lore that this world is, or what these events are taking place in, is probably good, but not necessarily necessary unless you're in some sort of really fantastical environment, like say space. Like, why are we in space? How did we get here? Characters, always important. If there's a narrative, that means you got to have good characters. It's debatable whether you need a lot of character development, because I think you can have a good static character as long as they're well written.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily have to change too much, as long as they're interesting and well written. But I think character development's good. Unless you're making sequels, then I think you got to think about that a little more, because then usually with sequels, you either hit the reset button on the characters, like, oh, why are you acting the way you were before? Then you get over whatever issue, character flaw you had. Or you don't necessarily have to have good character development. I guess you could have negative character development. Ending wise, I think, and whether a game's ending is good or not, I think it has to be self-contained in a way. Like, say with Mass Effect, let's take our favorite game, the original Mass Effect. it it sets up for a trilogy, ideally. At least that was the alleged plan. It was a trilogy. It sets up the steps of a trilogy, but it's a self-contained story. It has a mini middle, beginning, and end. I'm not sure why I said that out of order. So it's satisfying. Like if say BioWare, my personal headcanon, BioWare went out of business after they released Mass Effect and Dragon Age and never made another game again, the story's satisfying it by itself. It'd be sad to, oh well, what happened afterwards with the Reapers and stuff. But at least like the threat with Sovereign and Saren, that was concluded. All those characters that are in the game have their arcs, their conclusions. With the impending Reaper threat, which is what the game set up for the following sequels, just the only thing that doesn't get resolved. But of course, the game ends are like, well, we vowed to resolve it. It's not like they ignored it.
Well, yeah.
So do you have anything else to add that what would possibly make a
good story? I think again I'm going with the sort of scaffolding idea of, give me context.
Yeah.
It doesn't, well, instead of seeing simplistic, the way I used was simple, because simplicity would be like too old fashioned, where it's just like you are here to rescue the hostages kind of thing. It's like, okay, that's
a dragon stole the princess, you need to go save her.
Yeah, I mean that can be used. So your excuse plots are perfectly fine. I think it depends on the game, right? Genre, gameplay, what you're looking for. Make sure that you got that settled down first, right?
Yeah.
Put your how much control, if any, the player's going to have, etc. And it's like, okay, what are going to be the narrative wrapping around? It's like, why am I the themes, ideas, plots, settings, that sort of thing. Like, why are these things happening? And unless you're doing like comedy or horror, or, you're going the way of I don't know, David Cage or something like that, which would be very sensualism, and that's not everybody's gonna like that, or Kojima, right? You want to break. I mean, you're free to experiment. I'm not saying that free to experiment, but
I don't think we should mistake with being complex and edgy for good, because not everyone's gonna like a good or a complex plot twist and strong moral dilemma. Sometimes someone wants just a simple story that has it gives context to your gameplay, just to enjoy it, not have to think about it too much. Of course, there's also the opposite, where you don't want it so simplistic and not make any sense, and that it just detracts from the gameplay. It becomes too obvious or too derivative.
Yeah, I think it's to me, it's don't forget that playing a game by itself, it may not be good enough for everybody, but at least it's a good foundation, right? It's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
If you can tell the story without the gameplay, then you gotta ask yourself, well, why are you making a video game, right? But if you're making a video game, it's like, oh, by the way, if I add a character that's very interesting, it makes it better, right? Like, oh wow, they met the story and it became memorable, and this plot encourages me to do the things that I want to do, and it sort of reinforces what I'm doing. I think it overall makes for a better game, right?
Yeah.
Use story to make a better game. I mean, that's sort of like the simplest answer is like, always use story to make a better game. So we reached the bottom of the hour, or in the top of the other hour, and as always, I want to ask Monsieur Chapelmon where we can find you on the interwebs.
So you can find me at Chapelmon pretty much anywhere. On Twitter, I am Chapelmon_Aragon, and I'm also that on here on Twitch as well.
And you can find me here on Lessons Learned 1, which is our channel here on Twitch. We do this program every Wednesday, barring any major problems, of course. Real life does changes rules. And of course, I am currently streaming the Mass Effect series. I started Mass Effect 2 on Monday, and we're going to be streaming the entire series from Mass Effect to Andromeda. and well, not beyond because it ends with Andromeda. And also, you can find me on my YouTube channel as Lessons Learned. Usually, the VODs from here go over there for this program and other things, and as well as the usual, discussion videos of subjects, of gaming subjects. So, thank you for joining us. And as always, if you like this or any video on my channel or our channels, please comment and subscribe, and we'll see you when we see you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.